me.
Okay.
That's me.
You ready?
I'm ready.
And I want you to be able to like talk freely and all that good stuff, but I'll do my intro.
Okay. Where am I looking at?
The camera's on the left-hand side. You see in the middle at the top?
Okay.
Same place yours is.
Okay.
You have the same phone.
Same phone?
Same phone.
Okay. It's just really, really hard to see it right there.
You don't need to see it. Just know that it's there in
Okay.
that black abyss of space and time. That's where the camera is.
Okay.
Try not to look at yourself a lot.
It's tough. Okay.
You're looking like this. Lean your chin back and just relax. Just be yourself, bro. You're not on. Just forget the camera's there. Should I turn it around so you can't see yourself?
No, it's good.
Okay.
Good.
You're looking at the left side. Okay. Junior's our bodyguard.
Hi, Junior.
He's like, hi, touch me.
There you go.
He needs to go to the groomer really bad.
Yeah, I'll call later on.
All right. 3, 2. Hi, welcome to start again.
It's all right.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Filter Free with Tahira Renee Christie. My name is Tahira Renee Christie, and this is my amazing husband,
Benjamin Christie.
Yes, and on today's episode, I wanted to talk to you guys about relationships, not just general relationships, but how to build really amazing relationships that are life-lasting and beneficial to you. I feel like so many of us have so many relationships that we have to be in, and then there are those relationships you want to be in and that you choose to be in because they serve you in some type of way. And I feel like us having been high school sweethearts when we were 15, 16, 17 years old and having broken up and gotten back together when we were in our 30s, having an 11-year marriage and a child together, we have a lot of insight and information that we could share with you about our lives and what has worked for us, what has caused us pain and frustration, what hurdles we have jumped over, and the bond that we share that has worked so well for us. Now, obviously, there are some obvious things that people see about us that they make a lot of assumptions about. I being an Eskimo and from Nebraska, I'm just kidding. Me being a black woman, him being a white man. I remember our first marriage counseling session with our pastor. Mm-hmm. He asked us, he's like, so how are these dynamics going to work? She being the black woman, you being the white man, and both being the heads of household. How are you going to work that out? And I was just like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. But it was a reality we needed to look at and see, like, how would we navigate through that, knowing that he is the top dog in society, and I, having come out of being a single mom, was the top dog in my household, and how that dynamic would work in our relationship and how we would navigate through that. So these are the things that people don't necessarily think about when they enter into a relationship. They're just thinking, ooh, he's sexy. Ooh, she's hot. We should bang. And then we'll figure out relationship after that. No. I'm very grateful that we started off as friends, even though he was attracted, right? He wanted all of this from the get, but I was like, whoa, white man, slow down. Let's see how friendship can work with us and what we have in common. Because as even this morning, we were having breakfast together. What happened? What did you say?
What did I say? What were we talking about?
We were having breakfast, and we were talking about how opposite we were even during our breakfast time.
Yeah, I mentioned that she likes to be up at, 4 a.m.?
Yeah.
And I will stay up until 4 a.m., pretty much.
He's late.
Yeah,
I'm early.
And what was the other difference we had? I think it had a lot to do with, probably just limits in general, right?
We're just so different.
Yeah.
When I met him, he was a vegan, rock and roll playing, listening to, band guy. And like, we're different types of nerds, but we're both nerds. That's what we share in common. But when I say I was a meat eating, R&B singing, diva, he's very quiet. I'm very loud and outspoken. Like, we could not be more opposite in pretty much every way. But the ways that we are the same is why our that works so well. He loves cats. I don't like animals. We have a dog. That was his compromise. He's louder than I am, and I can be loud if I have to be, but I'm pretty, like, I feel like he's passive aggressive, and I can be passive at times when I don't want to be involved in something. I just literally disregard it and throw it away. And he's so good about being consistent and trudging through things that are difficult. Like, we balance each other out in really amazing ways. When he's pissed, I'm the calm one. When I'm pissed, he brings me back down, to make sure that I am at a level. So I feel like our relationship works because of the fact that we are opposite and we are like a yin and yang of one another. And I feel like that's balance. Like I see a lot of power couples where people are like, we want to be the power couple. We want to be the Beyonce and Jay-Z. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have two people who are both A personalities, who both need attention, who both need the spotlight all of the time, and they've got all these things going, who's going to balance the relationship? Who's going to be the submissive one at times? And there are different times where submission works for either person in the relationship, but there has to be someone who is willing to yield. And I feel like a lot of times, especially in modern day relationships, ain't nobody yielding. I'm the HBIC, I'm the top dog, I'm the alpha male, I'm the alpha female, I make the money. Nobody wants to assume roles because gender roles are now a thing of the past. Anyhow, that's a whole nother topic of conversation.
Right. But to your point, I mean, when we started getting together, we were performing arts kids.
Yeah.
And we were working together on a play. Mm-hmm. So somebody had to be the lead in the play. There had to be background roles. We were working on the music. So somebody had to play the bass and play the drums and play the flute and play the saxophone. And then with the production, you had people who wanted to be in the production design, who built the sets, the people up above us on the scaffolding who worked the lights. And everyone was okay with those roles. So they knew exactly what the role was, even at 15, 16, 17 years old. Mm-hmm. So knowing that, it's kind of like in a family, everyone needs to know their exact role too. And it would be great if you were that top dog all the time. It's just not a capacity for that at all times.
I agree. And I feel like that is where, as a society, we've kind of messed kids up because everybody wants to be a star and everybody wants to get a trophy and everybody wants to be in first place and everybody wants to be recognized. And the reality is there are so many roles in life, and especially in a family, where you don't always get the recognition. I'm a mom. Things run smoothly, but it is very rare that I get a damn cookie or a parade because I've done my damn job. We can say Mother's Day all day long is the day that I get celebrated, or my birthday is the day I get celebrated. But when you're doing work 366 days of the year on a leap year, and you get recognized 2 of them days, it doesn't feel like necessarily you're getting your dues, but that's the role. That's what I am in charge of. I'm in charge of making sure that things run smoothly, the house runs smoothly, everybody eats, everybody gets where they need to go on time, everybody's on schedule, everybody has a role in the house, all the chores are done, all the bills are paid, all the food, that's my role. And I accept that. And I think that understanding that those things need to get done and that the importance of that as the woman of this house, I feel like that gives me a sense of gratification because I can amplify my husband and ensure that he comes home and doesn't have to worry about putting in extra work. Even just in disciplining the kids. Like our daughter this morning was going through something and she asked me specifically to take her to school so we could talk. He wanted to take her to school. He's like, I'm going to take Ella. I'm like, let me take her because I have some things I need to talk with her about that only a mom's touch would support her with. Mm-hmm. So whereas he wants to do all the things to help support, which is great. We're givers, and that's also why our relationship works so well. There are times where his touch, like I'll be like, I need you to talk to our son. I need you to talk to our daughter because I'm dealing with this and I can't, my touch is not working. I think yours would do better. So we toggle back and forth between who needs to be the one to save the day for that moment or that situation. And working as a team, I know is what has helped us to sustain not only our marriage, but our family for all these years, because we've been through a lot. And I can't even pause enough to say how much we've been through, but we've gotten through 100% of it. And I know it's because our relationship, the foundation of who we are is, number one, we're hardworking, we're givers, we love each other very much. And it's not just something we say, it is an action. He was asking me this today, and he was like, you look pretty today. I was like, thank you. I said, I think you should take me out on a date. He was like, okay. Not because he was necessarily thinking, oh, you take my wife out on a date on my day off, which you should be. It's fine. It's whatever. Mm-hmm. I will give him clues as to what I want. And that's the other thing. Just speaking of which, communication. Ladies, say what you want. Men are simple. They just are. And it's okay. That's how God made them. Say what you want. I want to go on a date. He's like, well, what did you have in mind for a date? I didn't have nothing. That's his cue to figure it out. Figure out where we going and what we doing. I look cute. You need to take me somewhere. Feed me, take me somewhere,
Good point.
have me enjoy myself, make me feel like I'm your woman. That's it. And he knows what that means. And writing down a list of the things that you want. So he has a list of things to choose from. Like, okay, I've been sending him messages on IG of places to go throughout Orange County, throughout LA County, of really cute date spots. That's my contribution to, I want to go out. Oh, cool. You got all these things on your inbox of places that I would like to go that you could take me. You're welcome. So now he knows. So even if he takes me to any of those places, it's still going to be a surprise because I don't know when and if that's going to happen. Now, there's one place I wanted you to take me, and it took him 5 years to take me there.
Oh, the fondue spot.
Uh-huh. Yep. They practically closed all their locations by the time we went, but we did go. So.
It was funny. In my coat the other day, I found the receipts for tickets to Shed Yun. And how long have you been asking for that?
I lasted for literally like 8 years.
Okay.
It's fine. We did go 2 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
eventually. And I fell asleep halfway through. But anyhow, I did want to go.
They're really good seats, too. Yeah.
They were really good seats. I was tired. It was really, it was a lot. But anyhow, communication is so important. So, how do you, I have questions that people ask all the time, especially because we're in an interracial relationship and people they just want to know what's so different. And these, I'll give you my answers. I want you to give me your answers too. But I find like the only difference outside of our skin tone and our culture is I find that interracial relationships, there's just this unspoken, inherent respect at the foundation of the relationship because there are certain things he can't say and do because he's with a black woman. And there are certain things I can't say or do because I'm with a white man. And because we respect and understand that, we ensure that when we have communication, especially in regards in the topic of race or ethnicity, we're very sensitive to the topic, and we ensure that we are putting forth the right information to each other and doing our own research. Like he'll say all the time before he even speaks to our kids, I don't know what it's like to be a black man. I don't know what it's like to be a black woman. Would you like to hear my opinion? And if the answer is no, we move on, and that's okay. Our opinions are not thrusted upon our kids or anyone else for that matter, because we understand there are distinct differences from our perspectives. Knowing we're educated, we talk to a lot of different people, we're very cultured, we travel, we do all those things, but we're not going to know how everybody feels about everything. We can only speak to our experience. And he has some very unique experiences that happen as a result of being a white man that's married to a black woman. Tell him what you told me the other day. Yes, tell him.
What did I say the other day?
The Australian guy. What did he say to you?
Okay, so now one of my coworkers, he doesn't know I'm in an interracial relationship, okay? And he was taking a look at me and he said, "Oh, you got a hearing aid, mate." Yeah, he says mate because he's from Australia. And I was like, "Yeah, I've had this for a little while to help me hear." It's like, "Oh, I was with a deaf girl for a while and she taught me how to speak sign language," as you do. When a deaf girl, is your partner, you learn sign language. When you have a Japanese girl, she teaches you Japanese. When you're with a black woman, you learn how to duck. I thought, oh, that's interesting, because he's just presuming on face value that that's something that we can joke around with. Now, mind you, like he doesn't know anything about me. He's just saying it's okay to go there. Now, that's very interesting on my part. When I start to pull out photos of my family, people get shocked, like, oh, what? Not that I am going there. It's more like they had no idea, because it blows their mind. It blows their expectation. And I think part of that is the understanding, like, our awareness is like, I don't know what it's like to be in your shoes. I don't. I really, really don't. And part of that is just saying, okay, I don't know. I'm willing to have the conversation. And that's the biggest part that people don't see, is we have been willing to have this conversation a long time ago. This is not a fetish. This is not something that intrigues me to this day. It's more like, no, I love her and I respect her energy. So that's why I want to be here. It's not a gimmick. It's not a novelty. It's more like we've decided this a long time ago. Because where we grew up, Oakland was a majority black city. We had a black mayor. Over 35% of the population was black, and this was a thriving middle class. People owned their homes. They had multiple cars. They had working class jobs. The two principals I had in my elementary school were black. So therefore, you see all these people in positions of power and status. It's like, well, this is the norm. This is not something unique to me or my situation. A lot of people in cities from Oakland to Los Angeles to Atlanta had the same upbringing. So to me, it was no big deal. To my family, it might have been a big deal. To their parents, it might have been a big deal. So this is not a novelty. This is where I want to be. And I think people have to really, really understand too that we've been doing this for so long. So whenever people kind of like are intrigued, like, so what's it like? We know what it means.
What is it like, baby?
It's great. It's awesome. It also has to do with if you can get past. I mean, yes, there are obvious differences like skin tone,
really?
And hair and texture and well, like. The first time I go to her place, like, why is there a comb next to the stove? Little stuff like that my parents were not teaching me about because they don't know. Once you get past that, it's like, what turns her on? What are her needs? You know, what is she into? That's the bigger question right there, too. Because, again, she is not a representative for her whole entire culture, as am I. So once you get past that, you look deep inside the person and their energy, and it's like, well, what do they need? They need love and compassion and respect like anything else. And that's what we work towards building every single day. And part of our vows is we will put love at the foundation of everything we do. Mm-hmm. And we work really, really hard to do that every single day.
Okay, you have to tell them this one story too. And I appreciate that response. And all I kept thinking it was that one guy that you trained and then I called. And he was a Trump supporting freak. Anyhow, what did he say? And then what happened?
What?
You don't remember the guy you were training? Okay, let me tell you.
Okay.
He was training this one guy, and he had all kinds of things to say about blacks and Mexicans. And I don't know what it is about. He's a truck driver. So in the truck driving world, there are a lot of Trump supporting weirdos that listen to their one podcast, and it's always like America first, and Biden is the reason that's wrong with America, and it started with Obama, and our whole country is going to shit, right? So he hears these types of conversations from people all the time. And as a trainer of people who are coming into the trucking industry, because he's very patient, he's very kind, he's, really good at his job, he gets everybody. And my husband's amazing. He's ridiculously patient. And he allows people to have their opinions, and he allows people to speak freely without putting judgment or his own beliefs on them. We don't impose our beliefs on anybody. You believe what you want to believe. You come to your own conclusions, and that's cool. It's called critical thinking, and it's a lost skill that unfortunately a lot of people don't have. So there was one gentleman, you remember what I'm talking about now?
No, I don't.
Okay. There's this one gentleman who talked about the blacks and the Mexicans, how they're taking over and they're ruining society and the world's going to shit because the blacks and Mexicans are here in America and taking all their good jobs. And he's listening to this guy because his job is just to drive and evaluate the driving. That's what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And he's talking about the blacks and the Mexicans specifically. And then I call his phone, and my picture pops up on his phone.
I remember that.
And he can distinctly see this black woman. He says, "Hey, sweetie, how you doing?" Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. Can you finish the story?
Let's just say that he got really quiet after that. Okay. Because again, they're just presuming that, hey, white guy to white guy, we share the same beliefs. We have the same value system. And it's really evident after they talk to me. And it's like, no, we don't. No, we don't. No. You could grow up in a suburb and you can grow up in East Oakland, California, and it's radically different on top of that too. It really is. Because I remember when I worked up in North Dakota for a year, there were some people who lived up in North and South Dakota. The only time they saw a black person or black face was on television. So that's the only idea they had. And you can really see really quickly, like, television skews a whole entire culture because if it's a narrative, maybe it's a certain plot line they want to push or an agenda that wants to be served. It's really, really evident that sometimes people have all these, not just prejudices, it's like there's no curiosity because they're being told what to believe or think about a certain group of people, a whole swath of people right there too. So after that person saw my wife's picture pop up, he got really, really quiet real soon. And we're talking about, so this is like during this is the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. This is like 2016. And he was talking about, we're going to use certain instruments for thug control. And I knew exactly what he meant by that. Now, to let him go on and ramble, it's like, I don't hold that against people because, again, it's like, it's really, really amazing. No one knows a thing about you until you open your mouth. And when he said that, instantly made me think, oh, wait, he's being spoon-fed some information rather than being asked, why are we okay with calling certain people thugs? Because you wouldn't call that someone of your own skin tone a thug. You wouldn't call somebody in your family like that. Why is it okay for you to use this certain word, this certain noun or phrase to really deplore a whole swath of people right there? Mm-hmm. And I think these are some of the challenges that people don't understand, because people can say things under their breath and I'll hear it and I'll catch it. And it won't be like I'll call that person out, because again, we're coworkers. We're coworkers, and at the same time, my whole goal is to get to work on time and make it through my job. It's really just, okay, I'm not going to talk to you about certain things, nor am I going to allow you into my life about the rest of those things too, because you're not deserving of it. Right. You're just not. Once that coworker said that whole thing about, well, once you date a black woman, you duck. It's like, okay, you got a whole list of prejudice in your head that you just don't want to find out. You want to joke around before you get to know me as a person. So it lets me know your mentality. And that's some of the challenges we've had to deal from 1996 to the present.
Oh, yeah. And, I think that is the reality with so many people because of different ignorances that exist. And ignorance is not a bad thing. It's just a state of not knowing. And the problem with ignorance, though, is if you have no desire to actually learn. Mm-hmm. I oftentimes find that relationships in general, especially when you have a niche like ours, it's a lack of awareness, and it's based on assumptions. And the fact that so many people have weird fetishes with websites that are inappropriate, and they create their own desires in their mind, and then that world is real to them. And that's the problem with social media, and the problem with all of us existing online and not in real life, is we have lost the art of relationship, interacting with real people, finding out real perspectives, understanding where people are coming from in a real way, being okay with getting your feelings hurt, being okay with being shamed, or having pride about something based and rooted in something that you've earned. Those are part of the lost arts of communication. And I find that the biggest issue with building new relationships is we want to start them online, but then they stop right there and they stay in our head. So I'm encouraging all of you to go out and build a new relationship with somebody in a real way, in the real world. I've met many people online that I have continued the relationships offline, in whether it be in business or in friendship, because I'm about that life. I'm about the life of real interaction. My best friend lives in Miami. I'm in Miami every year, at least a couple of times a year, because I want to see my best friend. I don't want to just talk to her on the phone. That's great and all, but I need to see her eyes when I say something and watch them light up. And I want to eat food with her to see how she smacks. Simple things. It doesn't have to be complicated. But I love the fact that we have focused on as we interact with each other and we interact with the world, whether it be business or personal relationships, the goal is to sit and to understand. Love is an action word. Respect is an action word. Understanding and critical thinking, those are all actions. And you can't practice those by yourself. You have to actually go out and do something, interact with people in order to build real relationships. It's great to date online. That's awesome. It's a great platform to jump off for something else to pop off. However, you got to interact with people in real life in order for it to become real. When I was dating before we reconnected, because we broke up for many years, went off, I had 3 kids and a whole other life. He went off and had a whole other life of his own. I dated online for probably about 2 or 3 of the worst years of my life, because nobody was looking for what I was looking for. And even when I was dating in real life, the hardest part for me was everybody was looking for the same thing. It's funny because everybody from my race sexualized and fetishized me. And I'm not saying all black men did that, just the experiences that I had in particular with, it was all about body, and it was all about fantasy, and it was all about how can you appease that. And even though I'm talking this marriage thing, I'm talking about long-term relationships, I'm talking about values and goals, nobody was hearing any of that. They just saw, ooh, she got titties, ooh, she can pop her ass. Okay, all that's great, and he knows I can do all that real well. That's good. But what he came to me with was, I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a lot of education, I don't have a lot of these things that you think are important to you. You don't have a degree, I don't go to church, I don't have all these things, but I can offer you honesty, integrity, and accountability. And I was like, ooh, this man is talking values. Ooh, that's really sexy to me. Because as I was entering into my 30s and I had 3 kids already, I was like, all these other people that I had dated before, they could tell me about how I looked and what they could do to me and how it would feel, but nothing was rooted in anything real, anything tangible that I could grow with. It was all rooted in physical attraction, sexual exploitation and short-term relation. And that wasn't appealing to me. I wanted to be a wife. That was my intention. So what did I do? I wrote down everything that I wanted in a man in a journal. Literally, and one of my first few things on my list was honesty, integrity, and accountability. And he was talking that talk. And I was like, okay. I didn't just believe him right away, by the way. I put him through the ringer.
Yes, you did.
I put him through the ringer and made him go down a laundry list of things that I wanted to see him do in action and be consistent with before I was like, okay, I'll give you the time of day. But he followed through with everything beautifully, obviously, or we wouldn't be here. And one thing I really love about my husband is the fact that when we have an issue, and issues will arise in every relationship, he does his darndest to fix it. And not just, I have a problem with you, you need to fix you, you're the problem. That's not that at all. We are both flawed individuals who want love and support from one another. We both work hard to give the other what each other needs. And I'm going to tell one more story and let you jump in.
Mm-hmm.
Just the other day. And we ended up having sex right after this, by the way. I was like, so, how many girls were you with before me? And he gives me his number. And I was like, well, what? I was like, who was the top girl? He was like, you. I was like, whatever. Anyhow, who was the top girl outside of me and why? And he told me what this girl did and, what he liked about her. And his eyes lit up and he started talking. Most chicks would be like, see? You think about the other hoe? It's not about that. It's about me wanting to please my man, knowing I am one person. I can do a myriad of things and I cannot do all things, but he has desires in his heart. And my desire as his wife is to fulfill those things. So as he told me what he liked, sis hopped on board, literally, and took care of business. You hear what I'm saying? And that was the whole point. We communicated. He respects me. I respect him. I want to give him the desires of his heart. I want to give him love, but I also want to make sure he has a good time because he deserves that. He works really hard and he takes care of me and my family and our household. And it is important to communicate what you want, what you need, so you can receive that. So anyhow, I think communication with us is really, really good because I'm not the jealous type. You're not the jealous type. Mm-hmm. I want to know what you want, and I'm glad that you're nice enough to tell me, and I'm happy enough to give it to you.
That's pretty honest right there.
Yes,
that's
it
good.
is. I'm very honest.
Well, and then to your point, that's what a healthy relationship looks like. Because us going to church, twice yesterday, mm-hmm. you see the people who want to practice those values and they're consistent at that. Me maintaining sobriety, going to AA, there's a bunch of people there who are practicing these values. Mm-hmm. Even you went to 24-hour fitness today. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of people who have certain values in mind. That's why they show up consistently. And that's what a healthy relationship is. Now, all the rewards she's talking about, if you know what I mean, I think you do. If you put that first, you're making that, your goal instead of your reward. So everyone you're talking about that wanted to fetishize you, that's nice. But if they are trying to get that first, it's like, what do you have to build on after that right there? I think that's the tough part, seeing that in society as you see that eradicate, is we need to have some semblance of what our common goals are, what we're working on these things together as. Because otherwise we're always going to be at odds. And we learned a long time ago, me especially, there's no need for competitiveness. We're not competing. I mean, we are not one of those couples that say, we're not going anywhere. The difference is, because if you're saying what you're not going to do, it's going to come true. We're both saying to each other, this is where we want to be. And as we say that, we're also going to prove that at the same time. So with a healthy relationship, we were talking honesty, integrity, and accountability, because me getting newly sober, I had to be honest and look, I got a whole lot of faults, and I'm properly admitting that, and I'm working towards correcting that. That's what a lot of couples need nowadays. It's not her bringing something up to me and me automatically getting defensive about that. Because I can get defensive all day. Where is that going to lead us? We're really just going to be at odds and nothing gets solved. It's not you and me against each other. It's two of us solving an issue. Yeah.
So tell me this. Let's talk about challenges. I think all relationships have their own challenges. What would you say was one of the, you don't have to go into grave detail, but let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. What were some of the challenges that we've experienced or that you've experienced in relationship that you were able to push past, and what did you learn from those experiences?
I think the biggest one was me thinking not getting quality time from you meant that you didn't care about me. Mm-hmm. If I had developed my passions a long time ago and had those solidly in place, it wouldn't have felt like if you didn't or you weren't able to make time for, because to be honest, if you were a mom before you were a wife. So that's survival mode for the kids. The kids got to have a roof over their head, clothing on their back, and food on the table. That needed to come first before anything else. And if I had passions like photography or going on walks or creating music or sketching or just going for a walk or any other interest solidly in place, I wouldn't have felt like, oh, she doesn't care about me because she's not making that time. And part of that is me biting my tongue and saying, look, I got this thought in my head. I don't know if it's true or not, but hear me out. And sometimes me not wanting to hear the answer for that would have been, well, I can just confirm in my head, because anytime something comes up, I can always point at my expectation and say, see, that's what it is. But that's not the truth of the thing right there, too.
No, you're so right. And I feel like every relationship goes through challenges. And I think for me, I thank God that we're both very patient people. I mean, I think I developed my patience because I had kids. Like you said, I was a mom before I was a wife. And I learned how to raise a son before I learned how to be a wife to a husband. And one of my biggest issues was my self-sufficiency. I remember my father-in-law, before we got married, he said, you're going to have to unlearn being a single mom. I was very offended at that statement. I was like, excuse me, what do you mean unlearn? This is what's gotten me this far. But hindsight, he was so right, because there are a certain set of skills, like you mentioned, that I had to develop in order to survive, in order to be in that mode. And I know a lot of women are going into relationships nowadays with kids because a lot of our values have shifted over the last 20 years. And that's not a bad thing, but it means you're coming in with a set of let's call it issues, let's call it baggage, let's call it gripes, frustrations, vendettas, skill sets that are going to create dynamics into your relationship that you now have to figure out how to not only manage, but mold into the relationship with honesty and accountability for how you tend to respond to issues within the relationship.
Yeah.
I feel like because I had disciplined children so often, when I would get upset or when I had to say something, even if it was something that my husband didn't know, what if I went into kid mode with him? This is my husband. This is my equal. I can't be like, didn't I tell you? I had one of my ex-friends, we're not friends anymore, tell me when she got into it, argue with me, don't have me level you. Excuse me? We're not friends anymore. You will never level someone who is your equal if you respect them as your equal. And that's why that particular woman will never be married again unless she marries somebody who's just desperate. And she's not desperate. I don't think it's going to happen. But anyhow, the whole point is you can't be married to someone and expect to treat them like they are a subordinate of yours because either you make more money, because you've had more experiences, because whatever your criteria, credentials would suggest that you are better than your equal. When I accepted this man's marriage proposal and said, I want to be with you the rest of my life, and I want to live with you and govern with you from my status as a wife and understanding biblically what that means, because that's what was governing me. He wasn't a Christian when we first met, so he wasn't governing himself as a Christian man, and I understood that. But I was going to govern myself as a Christian woman, and the Bible tells me that I'm to respect my husband. And if I couldn't go into the relationship respecting him, and what does that mean? Giving him time and space to work things out, doing things as the head of the household that I don't necessarily agree with or even want to have happen, but allowing him to make those mistakes, us coming together, talking about it, reworking it together, and then him presenting it again to the world as the leader of this household. But in turn, he has to love me, protect me, keep me, provide for me, support me. There's a myriad of things he has to do as the husband. And he does all those things. And I'm very grateful. He's patient. He's kind. He does all those things that love is supposed to be. But I have to respect my husband. That is my obligation. And respect can be something as simple as he's got something to say and I got a better way to do it. Let's just put it out there. I just got a better way. In my mind, it's better. But if he says, just trust me, all I can say is, okay. And do that. And allow him to lead and allow him to fail or make a mistake and do it his way. And I'll be like, see, I told you so. I knew it wouldn't work. Whoa. If I'm to be with this man the rest of my life, again, respect has to be at the foundation of every interaction that we have with one another. It's not to say that the first year of marriage, I didn't fight with him a lot and cuss a lot and act crazy because I was still learning and he was still learning. But man, 11 years into this thing, it's just very rare that we have major blow-ups because we understand our position. And once you understand the position you play, it's a sport. He's the quarterback. I'm the linebacker. I'm the running back. Hell, I'm the coach. I'm giving the water and the Gatorade to other players. I'm playing multiple parts on the team. But at the end of the day, he's the quarterback. End of the day, he's going to call the plays. At the end of the day, he's going to tell me how to run them. And I'm going to run them, and we're going to be successful because I trust him. Yeah. And I trust that he knows what he's doing. So that respect is huge. And I pray that you guys are receiving what we're saying about relationships, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. But I did want to grab you, and I thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I know we're getting up on our time, but what did you want to say to everybody out there? Give them like 1 or 2 key pieces of advice that you feel will help people to cultivate great relationships going forward, whether platonic or romantic.
Don't make the same. Well, let me give a disclaimer. Don't take white privilege as an insult or something that you have personally cultivated. The first time I heard that, it was something I'm actually defensive at. Instead of letting it be a key to understanding, like there's a big divide, and not that you play a part in it, it just exists. That's a big elephant in the room that a lot of people won't have a conversation about, because yeah, we look pretty on camera right here. We want to make it look all rosy. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on right there too. Okay. So I'm sure there'll be a part 2 about that later on too, for sure. So in answer to your question, the best thing I can really say is really just figure out where you want to be in this. For what reason? I mean, again, I looked at the list of potential candidates I had at first, and I said, no, this is really where I want to be, because I could see that the energy dynamic we had could match up at the same time. She's really good at communicating. Me, I'm just really good at just being headstrong, and I can go through a full 13, 14, 15-hour workday or whatever, come home, get X amount of hours sleep, and do it again. So knowing your strengths and playing to that is really important. And you might have certain people on both sides who want you to be in a certain position or role, or put you in a box or a category. Because at the end of the day, I mean, people would like everyone to be of that, maybe that same background, same culture, because then they have a lot more in common. Except, again, we were performing arts kids, and we could kind of respect the energy that we had going into a production or a play or a workshop. So that's what works for this. You play to each other's strengths. Just know that you're really good at cultivating a bunch of grander relationships. She's really good at cooking. I burn a lot of things. But I'm really good at doing the dishes.
True.
So she does not have to do that. And I think that's a good mutual exchange. Because, again, if I do the dishes, that's one less thing she has to worry about. If she cooks, that's one less thing that I have to worry about. And I think once you work on that mutual exchange and figure out what kind of relationship are we going to build and make, if you get that from the beginning, then yeah, you can talk about all the sexy stuff later on. That could be a good reward. Put that in the forefront. Talk about it, though. Just understand you need to have a good, solid foundation of morals and values before you go anywhere right there. That's all I can say.
That's good advice. And just to piggyback off what you were saying, I feel like people need to have less judgment for their partner and more understanding that people are who they are. And before you start committing yourself to someone, taking the time to really understand what those dynamics are. And we're going to have another episode where we talk specifically about zodiac signs and how they interact, because people are always asking me that anyhow. He's a Libra, I'm a Gemini. We are ridiculously compatible in our signage. That's just that. That does not mean that we're guaranteed to work. There are plenty of signs that work technically that will never be in relationship with one another. But one thing that we have going on between the two of us is true acceptance. I accept him in all his non-seasoned mayonnaise eating, raw chicken breast, or mountain hiking white manness. Okay, rock and roll man. I accept all of that. The burps, the farts. That is what it is. Okay, he accepts my hair changing every day, cocoa butter around the house, got a do-rag on in the middle of the night, and sometimes take it off for sex, sometimes. Soul food eating, R&B listening to, melanin, blackity black, saying this nigga, this, that, and he's like, oh, my vanilla ears. All the things that I do as a black girl within myself and my culture that he can be not a part of. I accept him. He accepts me. That helps us so much, because the acceptance, I think, for so many people, that's why a lot of y'all end up in therapy. No one accepts you. And then when you get into a relationship where you're further unaccepted, it's hard to self-actualize as a person, let alone as a partner. And a lot of that work needs to be done with understanding who you are, so that when you're in the process of trying to attract the right partner, not just a partner, because most of us can attract, they're on 600-pound, my 600-pound life, they all got partners, okay? Everybody got somebody. Everybody can get somebody. It's not about if you can get someone. You can get someone. But is that person going to benefit you long term and be able to be a part of your life, to enhance your life and love you as you can love them in a way that builds something worth talking about? That's really the goal here, is can you build a life together? And I'm grateful that I'm with someone who is compatible with me, but more importantly, just accepts me as I am. I remember when we first were about to get married, one of the ministers in my church, let me finish rolling my eyes, hold on. One of the ministers at my church, during her prayer for our marriage, said, and God, thank you for bringing her somebody that can deal with her, and because she's a lot, and keep them personalized prayers to yourself. But anyhow, the whole point was, I know I have a lot to bring to the table. I know I have a huge personality, and that jealousy within her prayer was for her. But what I do appreciate about my husband is all that much that I bring, he loves it, and he accepts it, and he eats it up, and licks his fingers when he's done. You hear me? And I appreciate and accept that of him as well, because he could be a lot too. Stop playing. We're very much compatible in that way, and acceptance is huge. I am not here to change him. He is not here to change me. We are here to embrace one another and enhance one another, so that when changes do come, because they will, they're inevitable, and or are made, we can roll with the punches of those changes and walk into the sunset beautifully, because we already accept the foundation of who we are as people. So yeah, embrace change, embrace each other, love each other, respect each other, hold each other accountable, have great communication, have a lot of sex after you've established relationship, friendship, and all that, all the good things that you need in a relationship. And that can make for a really great relationship, to build on a really great engagement and or marriage and or future together as a partner, that there's balance. There just has to be balance. I don't want you guys in relationships where you're constantly fighting and constantly toiling and constantly degrading who you are as a person in order to just fit, in order to just say you have somebody. Well, we've been doing it for 5 years, so we just gonna keep going. What's the point of that? You have one life. Don't waste it on something or someone that you can't work well with. I remember my baby daddy, we were just talking about this the other day. My baby daddy told me, we don't get along. And I was thinking, I get along with everyone. So what is wrong with me that we don't get along? I was like, oh, it's you. You don't get along with me. And not that I lessened myself to try and get along with this person. And then when I found him, I was like, you mean I don't have to dim my light anymore for someone? You mean that exists? Yes, it does. But y'all heifers and hoes and men and women, it don't matter. Y'all people got to be patient enough for that person to come into your life. And that person didn't come into my life or re-come into my life until I wrote down what I wanted. And he had to go through his experiences to become that man that I wrote down. And I had to go through my experiences to become that woman that he needed to. So think about it, write it down, become it, attract it, and then you can have that person that you want for your life too. Anything else?
Be willing to have the conversation, as difficult as it is. The truth really, really cannot hurt you. Because again, we are liberated through each other. There is nothing she needs to change for me at all. There may be certain things that we say, wouldn't it be great if so-and-so did this or so-and-so did that? It's like, no, that's just you setting up your expectation where you're going to be disappointed every single time. So through that, be willing to have the conversation. And no matter how outlandish these ideas or requests may be, I mean, you're putting it out there and you're showing yourself. And through that vulnerability, you get a lot more love. Mm-hmm. You really, really do. Just be willing to have the conversation.
Yeah.
That's how we got together. Mm-hmm. I was willing to reach out and grab her hand and say, oh, look, you look like you need some help. And I mean, it got me here because I was willing to do that.
He is too much. He was very bold at 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
We were coming off of the hill. We took several buses to get from school to where our homes were. And we were coming off the bus, and I was walking down the hill, and he just grabs my hand. I was like, you look like you need some help. I can help you go down the hill, young lady. And I was just like, okay, random white man, why are you?
Yeah, but it got us here. I mean,
he was so weird.
Be willing to have the conversation, no matter how tough it may feel, no matter what you think in your head, just have it out. And great things happen because of
it
that.
Really happened to work out. God was good because, he was a strange bird, but I like him nerdy, strong.
That's me.
Sexy, all that. Well, thank you guys for joining Filter Free with Heroin and Christy. I feel like this was a great conversation for us just because we talk about this stuff all the time. And I hope you guys enjoyed our talk with one another about relationships and how to build upon relationships to make them strong, whether it be platonic or romantic. It's so important to have that love, have that respect for yourself and then for others in your relationship. And we'll join you on the next episode. So thank you for joining Filter Free with Heroin and Christy. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.